Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Being a Programmer. I am Rajashri and today we have to see how to write the test scenarios for registration page. You can consider any registration page, and for various registration pages we can see 100 plus test scenarios in this video. So let's start with video. First of all, here there are, you can see here are two images, depends on registration page. First of all, in the first image you can see it will be student registration form, and in this form there are some fields: name, then middle name, surname, then class, course, like that, then gender. This type of some fields are there, and last there is a submit button. So this is the registration page for student registration form, and another page which is business registration form, and in which business owner's name, then business name, then contact number, email, then address, type of business, message, like that. This is the business registration form, and last register business button is there. So these are the two registration pages, depends on uh, the registration of different faculties. And there are so many criterias or so many registration pages, uh, but these are the 100 test scenario which are common scenarios, refers to any registration page. So let's start with the today's video. And before starting, if you help some help from this video for you, and then do like to this video, also share with your friends. And if you haven't to us channel, then subscribe to this channel, also hit the bell icon for such new videos. And thank you so much for watching this video. Let's start with the today's video. First of all, the first scenario, which is, you can see, verify the presence of all mandatory fields on the registration page. So first of all, we have to verify the star field. Star field means mandatory fields. All the mandatory fields which are compulsory on our registration page, mandatory on a registration page, are present on that page or not. So first of all, we have to verify the presence of mandatory fields. Then the second scenario, which is ensure clear instructions are provided on how to fill the registration form. So whenever we can consider the mandatory fields, so first we have to provide proper instruction which helps to user to fill the registration form, and we have to check that clear instructions are provided on our page or not. So this is the second scenario. Then the third scenario, which is test the registration page behavior when trying to submit the form with just email filled out. So first of all, we have to check the behavior of our registration page. Whenever we can submit the registration form by only filling the email field, we cannot fill another fields. Only a single field, which is email address, is provided there, and we can try to submit the registration page or registration form. At that time, what's the behavior of your form? So actual the outcome should be, registration form should not be submitted. The error message should be displayed to fill out the all over the form, and or fill out the mandatory fields, and then you can submit the form. That type of error message should be shown. This is the this is the error which will be occur, and that occur or not, we have to verify that in the third scenario. Then the fourth scenario, which is test the registration page behavior when trying to submit the form with just password filled. So first we can see, if we provide some email address and then try to submit the registration form, then we have to test. We submit only password, not a email address, and try to submit this form. Then what happened? We have to test that. Then ensure error messages are displayed specifically for each empty mandatory field when attempting to submit the form with missing information. Then the next scenario, which is, we have to ensure error message should be displayed or not whenever the mandatory field, sometimes we did not attempt that field or did not provide the mandatory information. So with missing information we try to submit the form. At that time we have to ensure the error message display or not. Then the sixth scenario, which is check if the registration page provide inline validation for each field, indicating whether provide information valid or not as the user fill out the form. That means we have to check that validation process is activated for each field or not whenever we provide username. At the time, username it provided by using the instructions, as per instruction we provide the username or not whenever we try to submit the email address. At the time, at the rate symbol is there or not there, or a email address criteria is follow or not, password whenever we try to fill the password, then the rules for the password are followed by the user or not. We have to validate that all the things. Then the next scenario, which is test the behavior of registration page when submitting the form with valid information in all mandatory fields. We have to check that whenever we try to submit the registration page with mandatory fields information which is valid information, at the time page should be successfully submit or not. We have to verify that. Then the next scenario, which is verify the registration page prevent submission if any mandatory field is left empty. That means if any mandatory field is empty now and we try to submit the registration form, at that time your registration page submission prevents by the application or not. We have to verify that. Then the confirm the registration page maintain the data enter in the field even after submission attempt with missing information. So user don't need to re-enter valid data. That means you have to check that if sometime we did not submit the information for a mandatory field, sometimes any mandatory field is missing and missing out the information submission. At the time, you click on the submit button, and whenever you click on the submit button there is an error, you cannot fill all the mandatory fields. So first of all, fill the mandatory fields, and at that time, first of all you enter all of the data, exclude a single mandatory field. At that time, you have to check that whenever you reattempt that form to try to submit that missing information, but at the time only missing information you should submit there. You don't need to re-enter all the valid data. So you have to confirm that happening in the registration page or not. Then the 10th scenario, which is ensure the registration page does not allow leading or trailing space in mandatory field. That means whenever you can fill the registration form, at the time there are some mandatory fields, and whenever you try to submit information for mandatory fields, at that time leading and trailing spaces are not allowed in the registration page. You have to check that. Then test the case where the email field is pre-filled with an example email address or placeholder text, ensuring that it is clear when the user being typing. That means whenever you try to fill the email field, at the time some pre-filled information is available in that text box, which is email address, sometime some example of email address or some placeholder text, how to fill the email address, in which format you require that email address. And whenever you try to type something in that field, at the time uh, that text should be clear. Then the next scenario, which is verify that registration page provide tooltips or help icon near mandatory field to explain any specific requirement or constraint. That means whenever user try to submit the registration page, or you can check that whenever the registration field contains some mandatory field, at that time tooltips or help icon provide near to the mandatory field to explain a particular requirement for that mandatory field, and how which type of data you require from the user. And for that help, you provide some help icon near the mandatory fields. You have to verify that available or not, or if available then it's still working or not. Then the next field, which is test the behavior when submitting the form with empty and blank field individually. That means we have to check the behavior of registration page whenever we submit the form with empty fields. And if we submit the form with empty fields, we all know at that time the form should not be submitted, and that happening or not, we have to check that. Then the next test scenario, which is test the response to submitting the form with the field with the all empty field. That means we cannot provide any information regarding to that registration form and try to submit the form at that time. What the behavior of registration form, we have to check that. Then the next scenario, which is validate email format and response for invalid email address. That means whenever users submit the email address, at the time you have to validate that email address, that email's format actually, it will be valid or not, and if valid then accept that email address, and if invalid, at the time you have to response as per the invalid email address, or you can provide the error message that format should be um, wrong, which provided by the user for email, and that type of email address you have to provide, so you can provide some example to them. And then the next scenario, which is verify the enforcement of password strength criteria. That means you have to verify the password strength, actually user should provide the strong password or not, and for that you can check length of the password, some special characters are present in the password or not, and some numbers are present in the password or not. Like that you have to test that the strength, the strongness of your password which provided by the user, you have to verify that if it is strong or not. And then the next scenario, which is ensure the password and password confirmation field match or not. That means we all know there are two fields for password. First of all, you provide some password, so we have to check that we provide some password first time, and in password match field we provide some same password or not. We have to verify that, or that validation should be there. And then the next scenario, which is verify the registration page correctly identifies and handle email address with multiple at the rate symbol. That means you can see here is the example user at the rate domain at the rate domain.com. So if user provide that type of email address, that means multiple at the rate symbol, at that time registration page correctly identifies multiple at the rate symbols or not. We have to verify that if multiple at the rate symbols are present in the email address, at that time we can generate the error message for user, so we have to verify that thing also. Then the next scenario, which is in 19th scenario, test the registration page handling of excessively long email address, ensuring emphasis a reasonable character limit and display an error message if exceeded. That means for email address you provide some length or some limit, and if your user exceed that limit, at that time registration page response as per the exceeded limit or not. We have to verify that, or error message should be display limit is exceed or not. And then the next scenario, registration page clearly communicate the need to check the spam or junk folder for the verification email, ensuring user is aware of this possibility or not. So in this scenario we have to verify if registration page we can feel that clearly communicate, uh, that means communication will be happening in this field or not, to check the spam or junk folders whenever the verification email is sent to user. At that time it will be spam, or it will be junk, or it will be valid email, valid verification. We have to check that possibilities, and user should be aware by these possibilities, and we have to verify that thing also, that strength or that possibility or that feature should be provided by the registration page or not. Then the next scenario, which is test the registration page handling cases where the email verification link has been tampered with or contains invalid character, ensuring it detect and respond to such situations securely. That means whenever you can handle the email verification link, and that should be tamper or that contains some invalid character, at that time it detect by the registration page or not, and if detect, then you can respond as per the situation securely to the client or not. We have to verify that. Then the next scenario, which is check the registration page response when the user enter the verification code manually, ensuring it correctly validate the code and confirm email address. That means whenever user provide verification code, manually type that verification code. At that time, you have to validate that code. It should be correct validation code or not. Next scenario, which is verify the registration page, enforce a time limit for completing the email verification process and prevent user from using outdated verification links. So you have to check whenever user can do the verification process, at that time that user use the outdated verification link or not. Then the next scenario, which is test how the registration page handle the situation when a user attempt to verify an email address that is already associated with an active account, ensuring it provide appropriate guidance. That means if user use the email address which is already active on that site, and you try to register by using that email, at that time you have to work or you have to deal with that situation. Your registration page deal with that situation or not, we have to verify that. And then next scenario, which is confirm the user can upload a profile picture during registration if applicable. So remember, if in your registration page you have to upload the profile picture during the registration, at that time user can upload um, that profile picture or not, or user able to upload that profile picture or not, we have to verify that. Then the next, which is verify the user can successfully upload a valid image file. That means if you ask jpeg or png format of image, at the time user upload that format or not, you have to verify that as a profile picture during the registration. Then the next, which is test the registration page response when user attempt to upload an image in an unsupported format. If GIF, BMP, like that, user suppose provide unsupported format to upload the image, at that time registration page response as per the situation or not, we have to verify that. Then the next scenario, which is check if the registration page enforce a maximum file size for profile picture and accurately display an error message if the size exceed the limit. That means whenever you in your registration page you want to accept the profile picture during registration, at that time you have to provide some size, and if user exceed that size, at that time you have to display the error message, and that happening here or not, we have to check that. Then the 29th scenario, which is verify that uploaded profile picture are appropriately resized or cropped to generate thumbnail for user's profile. So whenever user can upload the profile picture, at the time your profile picture should be cropped and resized to generate a thumbnail for users profile. It will be happening registration happening in the registration page automatically or not, we have to verify that. Then verify the uploaded profile picture are appropriately resized or cropped to generate thumbnail for user profile, so we can check that. Then the next, which is test the ability to cancel a photo which is uploaded which is uploading process is in progress. At that time we have to ensure to stop upload process without causing any error. So we have to check that user try to upload a profile photo, and if that user want to stop or cancel that process which is uploading the profile, and at the time that process should be stopped without causing any error that happening or not, we have to check that. Then the next scenario, which is ensure the registration page allow optional profile information input. That means for example bio, so additional profile information input should be allow in the registration page or not, we have to check that. Then the next scenario, which is verify that user present with the term of services and privacy policy on the registration page. That means user able to accept that services and privacy policy in the registration page or not. Then the next, which is check the user are required to accept the term of service and privacy policy before proceeding with registration. That means check that user required to accept some terms of services and privacy policy before proceeding the registration or before proceeding the submit button which is present on the registration page. So user compulsory select or accept that services and privacy policy, and that will be happening or not, we have to check that. Then the next scenario, which is ensure that there is a link provided for user to access the full term of services with privacy policy document. That means if user want to read full term and services document at the time, the link which is provided or not, we have to check that. Then the next, reader and assistive technologies can properly read and navigate the term and policy text. Then next, which is verify that an appropriate error message is displayed if a user attempt to register without accepting the term. That time error message should be generated or not, we have to check that. If user did not accept the term and condition policy and try to submit the form, then the next, which is check that the term and policy text is presented in a clear and readable format, avoiding dense legal language when possible. Then the next, which is ensure that system record the date and time of user acceptance of term and privacy policy, associating it with the user's account. So whenever user accept the term policy, that date and time record in the database or not, we have to verify that. Then if the application serve a global audience, verify that the term and policy document are available in multiple languages and a user can choose their preferred language or not. So if registration page is open for all the global users at the time, multiple language you have to provide in the registration page, and as per the user's preference, user can choose the language, able to choose the language or not, we have to verify that. Then the next, test the process for user to revoke their consent to the term and privacy policy after the registration and how it affect their account, we have to check that. Then the next, which is test the ability to prevent duplicate account using the same email address. We already see in the above scenario, we have to check that if user try to log in with the same registered email address and open the duplicate account, at that time we have to prevent that thing, and a registration form able to that or not, we have to check that. The next, verify the prohibited character and spaces in username are disallowed. The next, check if the registration page treat email address with different casing, that means uppercase lowercase, that will be accepted or not, we have to check that. The next, verify correct handling of very long username within the input length limitation. So sometime there is a limitation for input and user provide the long username, at the time how to handle that username and how to handle with that, how to deal with that length limitation, we have to check that. Then next, test the registration page response when a user tries to register with the username that is already in use by another account, ensuring it prevent registration and display a relevant error message. That means you already registered with this username, try to use another username, you have to um, provide some message like that to the user, and our registration page able to that or not, we have to check that. Then next, if the registration page allow user to sign up using social media account like Google, Facebook, so we have to verify that it prevent the creation of duplicate account for the same social media profile. So we have to also alert by this error also, and check that our registration page work with tie with this situation or not. Then next, test the behavior when user deactivate their account, and later attempt to re-register with the same email address or username, and that will be happen or not, or what is this response of a registration page, we have to verify that. Then next, verify the registration page properly validate users input and reject if any data that contain potentially harmful character like SQL injection attempt or script tags at the time, that harmful characters provided by the user, and then registration page reject that input, that ability is in the registration page or not, we have to verify that. Then next, check if the registration page are correctly handle input containing HTML entities or URL encoded character, and ensure that they are properly encoded or not, properly decoded or not. Then next, verify that the registration page enforces strong password policies, including requirement for length, then special characters, and mix up for upper and lowercase letters. Then the next, test the password hashing and encrypting by the registering and checking how the password is stored in the database, ensuring it is not stored in the plain text, it is in the hash text or in any type of encryption. Your password should be stored in the database, and that encryption security is provided or not, we have to verify that. Then the next, which is confirm the registration page does not display the entered password in the plain text during the registration process. The next, test for password brute force attack by the attempting to register with commonly used password, and verify that the system detect and prevent such attempt harmful attempt or not. Then next, check if the registration page provide password strength feedback to user attending them on creating a strong password. If user provide um, some general password, then you have to uh, ensure to the user to provide the strong password, that will be happen or not, we have to check that. Then the next, verify that the registration page enforces secure session management practices, including um, secure cookies, then properly expiring sessions after period of inactivity, so that will be happen in the registration page or not, we have to check that. Then the next scenario, which is test the registration page response when attempting to register with an existing but lock or ban user's account, ensuring it provide appropriate feedback or not, we have to check that. Then next, which is test the behavior when attempting to register with a previously registered email address, and ensure that it does not reveal whether an email is registered or not. So next scenario, which is check if the registration page use account lockout mechanism after multiple failed registration attempt to prevent brute force attack. So to prevent the brute force attack, what sort of security provided by the registration page, we have to check that thing in this scenario. Then the next scenario, which is verify the registration page employ rate limiting to protect against registration attempt from the same IP address at an unusually high frequency. So we have to also test the IP address from which IP address the registration form should be submitted. Then the next, which is ensure that registration page complies with data privacy regulations. That means, for example, GDPR, by obtaining explicit consent from user to collect and process their personal data. So we have to also check that the privacy regulations for the personal data which will be provided here or not. Then the next, which is test the registration page responses to user request to delete their account and personal data, confirming that it handles data deletion requests securely and effectively. If user try to delete their data at the time securely, that deleting process should be happening in our registration page or not, we have to check that. Then next, check that the registration page stores sensitive users data such as password, email address securely using the strong encryption and hashing techniques. So uh, that means we have to check here is security purpose of our registration page. So these are the test cases for only security. And then the next scenario, which is verify that registration page does not expose sensitive information in error message or response headers, protecting against information disclosure, so we have to check that. Then they test the security for the email verification process by attempting to manipulate the verification link to gain unauthorized access to verify with the expired links. So we have to check the verification process of email. Then verify the registration page employs captcha challenges to mitigate automated bot registration attempts. So for the captcha, we have to verify the registration page here. Then next is the password recovery feature to ensure it securely allow user to reset the forgotten password without exposing sensitive information or not. So for forgot password, what sort of privacy is provided here? We have to check that. Then the next, confirm the registration page does not provide hint or notification about the extents of specific user's account during the password recovery process. So this is also a privacy method. Then test the user enumeration vulnerabilities by attempting to reset the password for both registered and non-registered email address and verify that the system does not reveal which address are valid. So this is also a security purpose test scenario. Then next, test the registration page with low load. That means, for example, 10 concurrent users to ensure basic functionality and responsiveness. So we have to check that. Then next, gradually increase the load of registration page to simulate medium traffic. That means 100 concurrent user at the time. You can automatically increase the registration page load to improve the performance. So we have to check that it will be happening in our registration page or not. Then the next scenario, which is conduct a peak load test with high number of concurrent users to determine how to page behave under the maximum expected load. At that time your page work properly or not, you have to check that. Then the next, test the registration page ability to handle sudden spike in the traffic by rapidly increasing and decreasing the number of concurrent users. Then evaluate the registration page performance during a sustained load over an extended period to identify any memory leak or resource issues. Then next, access the registration page ability to scale horizontally by adding more server instance and ensure that the load is distributed evenly or not. Then next, test the registration page ability to scale vertically by increasing the system resources, for example CPU, RAM, and measure that improve performance or not. Then verify the system can automatically provision additional resources in response to increase load. Auto scaling, that means without causing downtime or performance degradation due to lack of response resources to grab the responses. Then next, which is measure the registration pages performance when dealing with different volumes of user registration, for example 100,000, 10,000 registration per hour. As per the volume, performance of page registration page should be measured or not, we have to check that. Then the next, verify that the user registration data is correctly inserted into the database, including field like username, email address, and hash password or encrypted password. We have to check that details stored in the database or not. Then the next, test database integration for inquiry for unique constraint, ensuring that duplicate registration are prevented based on email address or username or not. Then next, check that the registration page properly handle database connection error and prevent informative error messages. Then next, test the registration page integration with an email services to ensure that the verification emails are sent upon successful registration page or not. Then next, verify the email content, that means subject body contains the correct user specific information such as the verification link or whatever that type of links are provided there. The next, test email delivery failure scenarios such as when the email services is unavailable or return an error and ensure that the registration process handle them gracefully or not. Then next, verify that user can register using third party authentication provider by for example Google feedback Google, Facebook, Twitter by clicking on their respective authentication button. Then next, test registration through multiple third party provider to ensure consistency in registration process. Then next, verify the registration page response when the third party authentication service is temporarily unavailable, or return an error if that authentication is unavailable at the time a registration page response is as per the situation or not. The next, test how the page inform user about third party authentication failure and provide guidance on resolving them. The next, test whether user with existence account on the registration system can link their account third party authentication provider for simplified login or not. The next, ensure that linking process works smoothly without causing data conflicts, that your registration page able for that or not. Then next, test the third party authentication integration to ensure it compiles with users privacy preference and data security regulations. Then verify that users data from the third party provider is handled securely and with the respect to user's consent. Then next, verify that the registration form is clearly labeled and user can easily understand the purpose of each field or not. That means each field you have to provide some stakeholders or some labels during that field to identify the purpose of each field that happening in the registration form or not. Then next, check that the field labels are descriptive, placed correctly and visible to user. The next, test that placeholder text without input field provide helpful hint but does not disappear when users start typing. The next, ensure that input validation messages for errors, for example missing field, invalid email, are displayed clearly and prominently to the user. The next, if the registration process has multiple steps, confirm that user are provided with clear progress indicator. The next, if applicable, access the password strength indicator to help user to create a secure password and provide the hint to user to how to create the strong password, secure password. And then next, verify that the cursor focus is set to the first input field, making it easy for the user to start typing. That means at the first text field our cursor should be located by default. Then next, test the registration page layout and usability on various mobile devices, ensuring that it is a mobile responsive as well as form elements are easily accessible on mobile, laptop, whatever your screen resolution is there. Then next, ensure that the user can interact with the form element, for example button, checkbox, on touch screen devices without any issue. Then confirm that the register or a similar call to action button is prominently displayed and stand out on the page. Then next, test the flow of the registration process to ensure that user can move smoothly from one step to next without confusion. Then verify the user can easily navigate back to the previous step or correct error without losing their data. Then next, if applicable, access the usability of the confirmation page, including its clarity and the presence of successfully registration message to the user. If all of the things are clear and you can successfully register for that registration page, your registration is successfully happening at that time, that type of message should be displayed to the user. And this is all 104 scenarios we can write for a single registration page. So I provide here all registration page test case scenarios, and as per your choice, as per your requirement, you can choose the registration page scenarios from here. These documents should be provided in the description box in so you can access the Google Drive and from there access this document which is depends on the scenario of for the registration page. So you can use this registration page scenarios for your purpose. And if this video is little bit helpful for you, then never miss to like to this video. Also subscribe to our channel if haven't, and hit the bell icon for such new videos. And thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for next video. And if this video is little bit helpful for you, then please comment me below, because your comments motivate us. And if any suggestion, any queries, any topics you want to watch the videos on that topic, then let me know in the comment section. And also stay tuned for next video, because we can cover all these test scenarios, uh, and for that scenarios we can write the test cases in next few videos. So stay tuned for that videos. And if this video is helpful, then let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned.